The more the merrier. In the case of our Cup cars, it's always our biggest field of the weekend. It's going to be a busy track as we get ready for the Porsche Sprint Challenge GT3 Cup Series. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Joey, the good news is our drivers have over 3 miles to spread out here.
It is a fantastic weekend for some racing, especially some Porsche Sprint Challenge racing. You see the fans lining the side of the racetrack. Let's call it mid-80 degree ambient temperatures, and we are smack on the Virginia-North Carolina border. Let's take a look at the track map of what is Virginia International Raceway. 3.27 miles and 17 turns makes up this facility. A couple of really good passing opportunities. First one is at turn number 1. Always a great brake zone. And then look down towards the far end of the track. Turn number 12, Oak Tree. Always a little sneaky down there. And then you get that long run down the back straightaway into turn number 14. The next best passing opportunity. But be careful in that section. It is steep downhill from 14 all the way through the compression at turn 17 Hogpen to create a lap here.
Well, it's going to be a bit of a mixed-up grid on top of things with Carl Stout starting on the pole. It is Matt Siegel who is going to be starting to his outside. Row 2, see Jens Hansen in third with Riley Giacomazzi starting in fourth. We'll talk about him a little bit more today. Blake McGovern starts in fifth with Elaine Scalzo, one of our championship leaders in the Masters, starting sixth. Musial Jr. starts in the 7th position with Todd Treffert in 8th. And then, Joey, in the 5th row, it is Joel Johnson starting 9th and Danny Jashelski all the way in 10th.
Then in 11th, it will be Mark Bowden. Lined up next to him is going to be Brandon Hankins in 12th place. On the next row in 13th is going to be Chris Hutter. Next to Chris is going to be Bill Fennick in the Masters class, starting from what is 14th overall. 15th is going to be Keith McGovern, and 16th is going to be Scott Neal. 17th is Javier Ripple Jr., and 18th is going to be Dave Musial. Then back here in 19th, Frank Vitiello, and Jensen Sofronis has got some ground to make up starting from 20th.
Yeah, behind them, Grady Willingham is starting 21st with Greg Shermer in the 22nd position. And then down in P23, it is Sean McCaig starting next to Reggie Tartaglione. After that, in the 25th spot, John Gardner will be flanked by Dan Drowan, and the last on our field will be Steve Schmitz for 27 cars here today. And of course, we have a very special guest in the form of the legendary the Porsche racer, Bob Fayetta. Bob, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, and it's honestly very cool to have you here with us with one of your drivers out on the track sharing a very similar story with you.
Yeah, that's Riley Giacomazzi. He'll be driving the car number 296, starting in the 2nd row.
In fact, he's getting a chance to go from just working as a shop hand up to a driver, which is exactly what Bob got to do to kick off his career many years ago. And it's so cool to see that cycle continue and see him offer that opportunity to someone special in their crew. But for now, we focus on the start of the race. 35 minutes plus a lap here for race 1 of the weekend. And Carl Stout going to try and keep up his winning that he has had so much this season. It was briefly interrupted at race 1 at COTA. Now, can he pick things back up and start another streak here this weekend? Green flag is out, and Carl gets a pretty good jump over Matt Siegel, but look at Jens Hansen already looking up the inside. Can he actually take this 2nd place away? They're going to go wheel to wheel for that P2, but it's not over yet, Joey, out of turn 2.
No, Jens got a terrific start, but now Siegel's got the inside line going into NASCAR Bend. Turn number 3, you see Riley sliding into what is 4th place, and the very, very busy GT3 Cup car field finds its way through the rest. Oh, maybe a little bit of fender-to-fender contact right there between 2nd and 3rd as Siegel finally gets into 2nd. We've got another car up and over onto its lid out of turn number 4.
Unfortunately, that was Chris Hutter with a massive accident. We'll hold still to wait to hear how that goes. Obviously, full course yellow comes out immediately as Carl Stout will slow the field down. Elaine Scalzo looks like he remains as our leader in the Masters class. And just to confirm, that is the 281 of Chris Hutter there from Race Control, who wound up with those issues. Bob, that's always scary to see this happen on these tracks. Thankfully, it seems these cars just keep getting safer.
Yeah, I can speak to that. These cars have developed into a really, really safe platform. They've integrated all the latest, metallurgy and engineering into these cars, and I can say that from when I raced till now, it's double the safety just in the rigidity of the chassis and the improvements that Porsche has made over the years.
Obviously, it's a big focus of Porsche. They've continued to iterate this 911 Cup car time and time again, Joey, and it's been continually improving over many, many years. So they've had a lot of chances to try and not just make it quicker, but make sure that drivers can get home. But we'll just have to wait and sit tight now until we get word on how Chris is. Carl obviously managing to come away, and Siegel, importantly, managing to keep Hansen behind him.
And something we didn't cover going into this, or maybe you kind of briefly mentioned it, Joe, but the rows were maybe a little bit mixed up based off of what qualifying was. Now, our inside row was Group A in qualifying, and they physically got to put lap times down. But the outside row, they were based off of championship points. So I wouldn't doubt it that maybe some of the cars slightly out of position in terms of the middle of the field pack, and it could have led to some of those accordion effects in contact.
Yeah, we had an interrupted session, so obviously that did mix it up. I had said that, I had alluded that it was mixed up, but we didn't quite explain why, obviously. And it's started things off a little bit wilder than maybe we would have anticipated, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to try and get things back rolling again. As
the wind, look at the wind that we've got here. We haven't seen that sort of wind all weekend long, and that's a strong tailwind pushing the cars down into turn number 1. Now, obviously, under yellow flag, not an issue, but just means more top speed going into that brake zone.
And Bob, what does it feel like when you have those strong tailwinds on these cars, especially at the end of such a straight like the front stretch? Do you notice that? Does the rear actually feel a little bit lighter?
I think, the wind does affect the cars. As the cars get more and more aero advancements, then the wind does affect it. Wind off other cars, airflow off of other cars certainly affects the cars.
And I think the biggest thing with the tailwind especially is just not necessarily going to feel the rear end get lighter. However, the top speed might be 1, 2, 3 mile an hour a little bit faster.
That's a really good point. And while we've got the opportunity, Bob, I also wanted to ask you, because I had mentioned that you got your start in a way that we don't see as often. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you began racing?
Yeah, I was a mechanic by trade and was racing go-karts. Kind of later, I took up go-karts like in my 30s. And I met a guy at the track that kind of asked me if I could help him out with some of his exotic cars. And one thing led to another, and he decided he wanted to go racing. He said, I'll buy you a car, I'll get a car, we'll go out and practice together, and we'll go out and try this Cup Series.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did that actually, was that intentional with Riley when we saw him get his chance to hop into the car? Did you see that potential in him and thought, I want to do the same thing and hand it down?
Yeah, I didn't know Riley real well as far as his racing experience. I knew a gentleman that did know him, and he brought him over to my shop. I liked him. He's a very good kid, very respectful, hardworking, and I said, this would be a good opportunity to, have a guy work at my shop. Come to find out, he was driving in the Porsche Owners Club in a spec Boxster, and very successful doing that. So we gave him an opportunity to drive in a couple occasions at practices. He showed that he could drive the car. And one thing led to another. We started talking about, possibly moving him up into a car and let him do some testing. And here you go. We got some sponsorship money. We put, Competition Motorsports stood behind him, and a couple of his friends did. His parents, obviously, way behind him with, finance and moral support. And we got him in a race car. And this is his first real go at, a real professional series.
Have you seen a sudden influx of mechanics wanting to work for the team since then?
Listen, the internet and I got more people that call me, saying that their kid is a race car driver or want to drive race cars. It's really the social media and all the Formula One hype has really made that pool large, and a lot of people just wanting to be in the racing industry, working with it, driving, everything.
Well, I'm really glad that you came up and have joined us here. I can't wait to get more thoughts from you about what it's like in the racing industry and coming up through the ranks to where you are now. But for now, Joey, we're still waiting on word, I believe. We did see a message that they're working to try and clear the car over at turn 4. Interesting to note that Scalzo moving himself up to the lead of the Masters. Great for him. Not nearly as good for Mark Bowden. And actually, where is Mark? Oh, he's down in 4th, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like 4th in class, 11th overall is where Mark Bowden has settled out after that, call it half a lap skirmish to open up the green flag here. And the other, it's never good when a car has an accident, but I think the only good part about it is that it does seem like it's only one car that was affected in that incident.
That's all I could see, and that's all we've heard word of as well. We haven't seen any visuals since then to give you any more information. As far as Bowden, why I'm bringing him up, especially with him being in 4th, is because he hasn't finished off of the podium since race 1 at Sebring. So he is obviously running a very good streak at this point, on top of him leading the points over Elaine Scalzo. So this ordering of things did initially help him because he would have started ahead of Elaine, but unfortunately it looks like he may have lost a little bit of it in the shuffle at the start of this race.
So obviously pace car light's still on. We're still recovering the car over there at what is turn number 4 and 5 area. You see Carl Stout right now taking every opportunity, and actually same thing with Jens and Riley, keeping those tires clean, right? It's not necessarily about keeping them up to temperature in these situations, but it's making sure that the entire surface doesn't have the pickup on it. If you have this pickup from dirt, debris, extra rubber that's on the racetrack, it's just not allowing that entire surface area to get down into the asphalt. So a lot of these drivers under these yellow flag conditions, not only are they trying to keep a little bit of temperature into the equipment itself, but they're also trying to keep it as clean as possible.
There's so much more to racing outside of just the race itself, obviously. And like you said, drivers having to constantly think about so much. But Bob, there's a lot of people that are having to think about a lot of things to make these happen. What's the transition been like for you going from racing to being one of the head people at these teams?
You know, it was an easy transition for me because of my age. I started racing a little late in my career, and decided that at some point in time, running a business as a mechanic, having a place to do it, meeting the people that I did, it was time to step back and run a business, make a business out of it.
Well, I'm really glad that you did, because we've enjoyed watching Riley and your guys compete week in and week out. What are some of the things that you guys do have to consider to get the car ready that you think the average race fan might not realize is a big part of running a team?
So we have a very specific shop that only works on race cars. We don't do any street cars. So we're very well versed in how to maintain these cars. The trailer comes in. We have a steam cleaning bay. We take everything apart. We clean everything. We inspect everything. Then we move it into the shop. We do an alignment. We do a nut and bolt on it. We do any necessary service work that needs to be done, and then we mount tires and get everything ready for the next event. So we have a schedule that we have for every car going to the next event.
So it sounds like the race weekend doesn't just determine the success, but the week before, multiple weeks before in some cases.
Absolutely. When I was racing, we were very meticulous because we were only running 2 cars, and we had that routine down. And I believe some of my success was we had a great group of guys around us. We obviously had Porsche and Yokohama, providing the best cars and the best tires, but we had a process that we did that really allowed us to not deal with any problems at the track. When we showed up at the track, we were ready to race. We weren't flashy. I didn't have a painted helmet. I didn't have a car covered with graphics. But I tell you, I believe we podiumed about 26 times in a row with very few mechanical issues. And there's something to be said about that, because when you got to finish races. To win championships, you have to finish races. You don't have to win every race, but you have to finish races. And you have to settle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place.
Sometimes that consistency is a big part. I see 2 podiums so far for Riley, so maybe not as great a results as he would have wanted, but he's up against some very big competition out there. Do you see him sharpening himself a lot with some of the speed he's up against?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think in all fairness, he doesn't get the amount of seat time that some of the other drivers get. And with these new cars, they are such sharp tools. These cars have a lot of aero. Aero is very difficult to extract out of a car for anybody. And so for that reason, I think he's maybe at a slight disadvantage. But boy, his learning curve has been really steep.
Certainly have been enjoying watching him compete out there, and usually is pretty close to the sharp end. I know the 2 podium stat might sound like he's missing out, but he is still pulling home consistent results pretty much every race weekend. You can see he's just outside the podium currently as we circulate under yellow this one. Joey, I know you had been kind of looking around a little bit. Have you gotten any information recently?
No, nothing in regards to the stuff on the track. I was actually going to ask Bob a little bit of a question, because a lot of drivers that come into the sport, they don't necessarily have the best mechanical knowledge or background, so the information translation to the team can kind of get broken in that chain link. How is it for Riley? Because he actually understands everything that's going on with that car, and how's that feedback?
So purposely, I make him work on his own car at the shop. He's not a mechanic by trade. He was never a mechanic, but as he worked in our shop for the last couple of years, he's learned to work on these cars. Like, we only work on race cars, so he doesn't need to learn about street cars and all the systems of cars. He focuses just on the race car. As a driver, it's a huge advantage to have mechanical knowledge, because when something's not right, you can identify that right away and make changes, or at least relay that to somebody who will make that change. So he does do a lot of the work on his own car. He'll stay late in the shop and work on it. And for that reason, I think he's got a little bit of advantage over guys that don't have that mechanical ability. It'll pay off in the long run.
That's a really good point. As we see Stout continue to lead them around behind the safety car. About 21 minutes plus a lap to go. Obviously, we have taken up quite a bit of time with this cleanup. But from what I can tell, the car is actually still at that spot. So that must have been quite an effort out there. It is quite an effort that they are working on at the moment. Let's just cross our fingers that we do get a race in today, because we would hate to see this one get called on account of a wreck on lap 1. But we'll just wait and see how things play out for now. Joey, it's been warmer and warmer, and that's something that we kind of anticipated happening today, because it started relatively cool, even when they had the qualifying for these Cup cars. Definitely a little bit different conditions.
When we rolled into the track this morning, it was, call it mid-60s in terms of ambient, and it's now up to about 84, 85 degrees in terms of that ambient temperature. Just get a few messages there from race control reviewing that incident from turn number 5. And then that translates directly into the cockpit, right? And Bob, you know better than anybody else, but when you're racing, okay, it's not so bad. You got some airflow, you're going. But as soon as that yellow flag comes out, that heat soak kicks in, you don't have the airflow anymore to the inside of the car. So temperature-wise, it can get quite warm in these situations, can't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
And with the sealed windows now, nothing like you had.
No, I'll tell you what we had, we had the sequential gearbox, the clutch. So you're clutching downshifts, you're not paddle shifting, you're doing a lot of work heel toe. So I'm telling you, I can probably say it's a little cooler in the cars. Now, as a driver, you're not working as hard. So, I regularly hydrated. I stayed fit. I used to drive my car around with the heater on full blast with the windows up for an hour.
Now, lights are off on the safety car. So that is, great news. And I can see the 281 moving on our track map. So that means they've got it on the truck. This should hopefully mean that we're getting ready to go racing very shortly. So that is fantastic. 20 minutes, or actually probably when we start, it'll be more like 19 minutes plus a lap to go when we go racing. A truncated race with a mixed up field, Joey. The drivers are going to have to hurry to make up ground.
And really, I think that this is the most stacked up we've seen a field on a restart. Typically, they kind of get a little bit spread out, and then Coming to the green, they spread out even more just with the warm-up procedures, but it is all in the hands of Carl Stout now, bringing him down through hog pen slowly. I bet you he's on the gas right there at apex, trying to run away, but Matt Siegel with a terrific restart as well, and same with Jens Hansen.
And Matt Siegel was the one that stole a win right at the end from Danny Dashelski at COTA Race 1. Can he steal another win here at Race 1 at VIR as he's forcing a defensive move from Carl Stout down into turn 1? Little bit of a look from Jens Hansen. He saw the outside move from Siegel, thought he had a chance, but no dice as they go through the corner. Too wide in the back, looked like Dashelski in there.
Siegel was literally pushing Carl Stout out of the exit at turn number 2. You can see the shadows of the rear wing on the front bumper of that yellow 267. And now through the technical, turn 4, turn 5, you got to get on the gas as soon as possible right here because it leads you all the way up through the S's.
You can see Giacomazzi in that green car very close behind Hansen as well. They start to accelerate up towards the climbing S's, finally at full pace. There is Alain Scalzo, our leader in the Masters, trying to work on Blake McGovern. He wants to get some buffer between himself and Todd Treffert as well.
Carl Stout with a terrific command after that front straightaway, right? Matt Siegel was right on the bumper on that restart, but ever since we got through sector number 1, it seems like Carl Stout has been able to settle into a rhythm. I'm looking at third place. Riley is right on the bumper and in the slipstream.
Jens Hansen will know that he's there. He's holding the right-hand side. Riley's going to try and go the left-hand route. That means he'll have the inside of the kink, but the outside of the main corner in the roller coaster, unless he's fully passed, and I think he is, just about sneaks in with about a paper's width between he and Hansen.
Cleared him going into the brake zone, and respectful racing between the two, and now that green 296 of Giacomazzi is freed up and clear running out the windshield. He is going to go try to chase down that bright yellow 267.
So that's going to put Riley onto the podium. Carl Stout continues to lead, finally getting laps at speed down at 151. We expect that to pick up now that they are going to have a full flying lap down through turns 1 and 2. Looks like for now Riley has solidified that no fight back from Hansen.
And if anything, he's closed the gap on Siegel. So not only did he pass Jens on the back straightaway, but closing the gap up to what is second place. And I believe this is Danny Dashelski, the orange car with the black tail end. He is definitely one of our fastest drivers in the field. He is going to be trying to move his way up towards those top positions.
Yep, he got by Todd Treffert, second place in the Masters, and now he's working on Dave Musial Jr. Then ahead we see those two cars, the orange and blue. That is Scalzo. The orange and white is McGovern. And for McGovern, he would probably prefer if Scalzo stayed there, because as we've seen, Dashelski is mighty fast and he's on a hurry to get back in.
Look at how close Riley is to Matt Siegel. I mean, in the slipstream, it's almost deja vu from what we saw out of Jens Hansen just a lap prior, as this next group all going to be trying to use the benefit of that toe down this long cresting back straightaway.
Does look like Blake McGovern got a pretty good exit. He's nowhere near Scalzo at this stage, so he should be able to hold ahead by the time they head through the roller coaster. And you are right, that green machine is just all over the Dayglow yellow of Matt Siegel, and it does look like Dashelski's doing likewise to Musial. He has suddenly become a factor here and could get his way up to the top 5 in that Pro-Am.
The top 4 pretty even gaps now, so it's definitely Dashelski on the move. He is the one that is right on the rear bumper right here of Musial Jr., trying to find a way to the outside now that Musial takes the inside. Danny's going to try to hang tough around outside of 1 and 2. You can get edged out of the racetrack right there, and had to lift out of it at the last second.
Gave him just enough space. Great awareness from Musial to just kind of put his car at the right spot to dissuade that orange machine. Still, I don't think he's going to be done. Dashelski his 2 races at COTA, was as quick as Carl Stout, maybe only a bit slower on some of the days. I anticipate that he is going to be a lot quicker, which is no shade to Musil, and he's going to get aggressive. Nope, he decides not to try it here through the S's.
A young driver knowing self-preservation at that moment right there. I think that Danny did have the run. He did have the momentum, but there was no way that Musil was going to allow 2 wide in that section.
And Bob, you said you got started in your racing career a bit later than most. Are you impressed sometimes with the fearlessness of some of these young drivers?
Unbelievable, yeah. It's the moves that they make sometimes. It's just moves I probably wouldn't have made back in the day. But sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Definitely, sometimes they require a bit of learning afterwards when they don't. And for Jaselski, he still hasn't quite figured out a way to sneak by. He's going to remain behind. They're starting to catch up to Scalzo as well. Now again, Scalzo in a different class, so how hard does he fight if he finds the 2 of them starting to want to pass?
I mean, the urgency is utmost right now for Jaselski, and you see how aggressive he's being, just trying to get around this multicolored 231. And the reason is because we got 13 minutes plus a lap left. He cannot afford to wait around. Once again, defensive from Dave down into turn number 1. Jaselski's going to try to over-under this time. Oh, he's not. He's going to push him through the corner.
We're in the southeast. He's going to go NASCAR style and give him a little hello. That didn't move him off to the side quite yet, but he's going to try it once again, and it's a good run through NASCAR bend appropriately, and now he is up a position, moved Jaselski into 7th overall, and that is 6th in class as well.
It was urgent, and he got it done. I mentioned just the time kind of dwindling for him, and he sees out the windshield his fellow Pro-Am competitor starting to run away, so not only did he need to clear Musil, he needs to clear Elaine Scalzo as well if he wants to fight inside the top 5.
Looking at our timing sheet, and Giacomazzi's still only about half a second behind Siegel, so he's going to have to hurry too, or else he'll be caught up by Jaselski soon. And I'm curious, Bob, with all of your experience, is there stuff that you relay to your drivers of advice, of things from your years that you feel like they could use that you don't get until you've really been in the car a while?
I think patience. I think guys having patience when it is, when you're in the heat of a battle. You can't make irrational moves because generally it doesn't end well.
It's certainly something where I'm sure time in the cockpit pays
well,
nice
and to kind of play on that, how is Riley's demeanor on it? Because a lot of times when drivers put on that helmet, it almost seems like a different persona kind of goes into that driver's seat. But how is Riley? Is he pretty level-headed out there?
Yeah. Jeff Stone told me one time, he says, like a refrigerator. He said, when you close the door, the lights go off. So,
It's true.
that always sticks in my head. But no, Riley's got a really good demeanor. He's a relatively calm guy. I think in the heat of the battle, he can turn it up a little bit. He's new, so he's going to be cautious. You can see him battling right here. He's doing a really good job of being patient.
I thought for a second he had the run coming through turn 2 in an NASCAR, but decided maybe to back out of it. He was clambering over the curbs a little bit, trying to stretch the width of the track. Now as they come through the snake, he drops back slightly.
Crucially, what Riley has been able to do is have Matt Siegel only focus on the rearview mirror. Carl Stout, you see him way up in the distance, laying down some of the fastest laps of the race, and I think it's because, I think that was that Jens Hansen off in the S's?
I think so.
Got back on, though.
Okay, good. At least he's able to keep going. That's a scary moment through a very fast part of the track. I also want to report that Bowden got by Joel Johnson, and that moves Mark back up onto the podium to continue his streak. And it looks like the incident involving the 281 of Hutter has elicited no action from race control.
Looks like Siegel maybe got a pretty good run out of turn number 12 this lap, so he's able to kind of not worry about Riley by the time they hit the brake zone there at turn number 14. Equal gap coming down through roller coaster, both of them using about the same amount of curb. And then, through Hogpen, you really got to drive it into this compression. And Siegel, once again, with a perfect corner, actually holding out that stiff arm to Riley.
if Hansen had that big of an off, it didn't affect him too badly because he's still sitting in 4th, and he's still about 2 seconds ahead of Scalzo. So amazing job by him to stay cool in that moment. We check behind Hansen, back to Alain Scalzo with Dyshelski now in 6th. He sets his sights on the Canadian to see if he can get by up to the rest of the people in his class.
Alain Scalzo is one tough competitor, and he can get aggressive when it comes to repassing out there. So you're Danny Dyshelski. There's a late move going into turn number 4. We've seen it happen a couple laps ago, and he takes away another position, kind of puts Alain on the back foot, but now he's back onto the racing line, gathered back up. If anything, it's that 214 of Treffert.
That felt like the art of war. The element of surprise cannot be understated. Oh, that was a moment for Riley Giacomazzi up through the S's, as maybe he caught a little bit too much curb.
It can be such a different platform of the car when you reach those high-end speeds up at the top of the S's, and so you just have to be able to manage the front-end grip, make sure you've got enough wing in the car that it stays planted, but not too much that it causes too much understeer. And now Alain Scalzo really struggling coming out at turn number 12, going to give an opportunity to Musial Jr. potentially at the end of the straightaway.
And if you're Scalzo, you really got to fight this one because Todd Treffert is the next car back. Look at the flashing of the headlights as Musial wants to get through. He wants to keep up with Dyshelski. He doesn't like that he's lost position. And unfortunately, it looks like Scalzo's not going to just pull over for him. On board, we still have the view from Musial, seeing how close he's getting at times to that orange and blue machine.
Bob, while we still have you in here and just a few minutes left in this race, kind of maybe a question more for people trying to get into this sport. Mm-hmm. Now, you have obviously gotten into the sport, become a champion, and now are in the position you are. You're helping Riley along in that same sort of situation. But maybe as a new driver like Riley is, or relatively new, what are the things you work with him most, or what do you think his most difficult area is that he's having to overcome here in Sprint Challenge?
I think for Riley, just a lack of experience in this type of a race car. You know, the cars have gotten so fast and so technically advanced, it's very difficult for anybody just to jump into one of these and go fast. There's kind of a ladder that you have to climb before you get into one of these machines. You know, they look like they're easy to drive. They certainly aren't. They're easy to drive. They're hard to go fast in. And for Riley, he really impressed me with his steep learning curve. You know, he went from spec Boxster to driving a Cup car, and that's unusual. He skipped a few rungs. And I think, though, for most guys, it would be beneficial just to hit all those rungs. And I think Porsche next year will be adding some more rungs to their development ladder.
I was going to say, how impressed have you been at the way that Porsche has put this system together? Because we've seen, Joey and I have watched talent work its way up through.
Yeah. I mean, I think they really are aware of their client, and they take notes, and they go back to the drawing board, and they come back with solutions. And they're probably one of the few manufacturers that do this really well. And I think next year is going to be a real good year for them. I think they have a couple surprises for everybody coming in the form of different levels of race car, a new GT4, and a couple of other things in the works. So I think there'll be a more smooth transition for people to get up into this racing class.
I think you nailed it when you said they're easy to drive, hard to drive fast, right? And that's kind of, everybody sees these cars, oh, they got traction control, oh, they got ABS, oh, I could do a perfect lap, that's no big deal. But you were mentioning the precision on these cars. I mean, you have to be so precise, the amount of aero grip they make, the amount of mechanical grip they make, just the potential, the performance potential is so big nowadays that you really do have to be so precise. And something we even missed is that Riley is now up into second place.
Oh. Good job, Riley.
So yeah, great. Somewhere along the way, he managed to sneak by Siegel, who still remains on the podium. Ooh, we got some action though behind. That is Keith McGovern, as he's still being chased. That is, I think, Sofronis behind him.
Nice little Masters battle that you were mentioning back there. And then, I'm sorry, I always think of Sofronis as the
different Sofronis.
The senior Sofronis, and they both are Jay Sofronis, right? But no, that is Jensen Sofronis. the son out there of James Safronis. So great to see, even though the same name, same letterage, a different driver.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you're doing better than I was earlier on confusing drivers. So Jensen, unfortunately, was one of those that did not get to set a time, so he really had to come from the back because they had ordered the fields, of that side of the field, by championship position, and he's only been here for Sonoma so far. But looks like it's been a good job as he's gotten up to 16th.
And something I just noticed is that Danny Deshelski's charge up through the field has landed him right on the bumper of Jens Hansen, which is 4th place overall. What a drive. We were just mentioning Jensen Safronis having to start from way back, a little bit out of order. Danny Deshelski kind of in the same boat as we got our eyes here on the 222 of Elaine Scalzo, but I think Jens Hansen has some company on the bumper.
It won't be on the bumper for long, or at least it'll switch which bumper, because he sends it in deep into turn 1, a cut back from Jens Hansen. He's going to be able to get side by side, both of them leading through the corner. And as they come back around through NASCAR Bend, great defense from Hansen to retake 4th.
See about this move down into turn number 4. Danny doesn't opt to get ultra aggressive. I just think not quite close enough, but a great over-under from Jens Hansen there in turn 1 and 2. Something I did notice when the car was pointed at us. Remember how he went off in the S's earlier?
I saw that too.
I saw a lot of grass on that front grille. Thankfully, 3 minutes remaining.
Yeah, don't want to be racing around too long. This is not the endurance challenge that he's having to suffer through with that. Deshelski will get another couple shots at trying to take this position. It may not be for a podium, but this has got to be a frustrating reintroduction to the series for Deshelski. He came in with such a splash last season, and this time, his first race back, he got into a bit of a tussle that put him backwards and then lost the win right at the end of his first race. Second race, he got outpaced by Carl Stout. This one, he had to start on the back foot, and he's trying to make the best of it as we got a yellow flag at turn 1 for something, but it's not going to be a change of position between them at the roller coaster.
I think that Danny was maybe trying to play a couple little games there, and Jens just placed his car perfectly right where Deshelski wanted to. I believe this was the car down at turn number 1, 224. They are back going on the racetrack, so I don't think that the Hansen-Deshelski battle is over by any means, and I believe they're going to be arguing down the front straightaway here, down into turn number 1 momentarily.
Yeah, that was Reggie Tartaglione that found himself off into the grass, it appears. And I tell you what, Jacques Amazzi's actually running away from Siegel since he passed him. There is quite a distance between the two of them. Defensive move from Hansen down into turn 3.
Since we're talking about Danny, he is the only other car other than our overall leader to turn a lap time this race in the 1 minute 50 bracket. Everybody else is in the 51s or slower. Danny Deshelski, this orange car that has driven through the field, a 150.8. You compare that to our leader, a 150.4. So Danny does have the speed, and I think in race number 2, going to be a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, he started this one from 10th on the grid. He's up to 5th, looking at maybe 4th. We always have those hard charger awards, and it seems like he might be going for it today. This is where he really needs to square off the exit, get the throttle down smooth and early, and then he'll follow in the slipstream as they head up the hill of Madison Avenue.
I like that you mentioned the hard charger and the most passes, because typically it's from a car that starts way, way in the back and then moves up to call it midfield. The further forward you are, the more and more difficult these passes get every single position. And I'm starting to wonder, Joe, does Jens Hansen maybe have a little bit less wing inside this car, or I should say on top of this car, because by the time they get to that brake zone down there at turn number 14, it just doesn't seem like Danny's car has the momentum. He always seems to have the track position right there, but can't quite get all the way up.
It could be. It'll be telling here at the end of the front straight, because he was quite close to him initially. He's got the pull, but the defensive move from the 225 will cover him off.
Let's see about the over-under. Nope. Jens Hansen just placing his 225 machine in the perfect area. And Joe, something else I just noticed. he's doing all this without a front splitter. I don't see a front splitter on the front of Jens Hansen's car after that off in the S's.
Wow. And well, we got to see that back at Sonoma in the West Series as well, that some of the drivers do manage to go decently fast without that front splitter. It is an important part of the car, but it's not slowing down Jens Hansen. And as I mentioned in the qualifying, it's been a real turnaround of form for Jens, who has come into the Cup Series after graduating from the Caymans last season and seemed to struggle in comparison to the form we expected out of him. And this race, this track, seems to suit him so well.
Bob, since you know these cars and you work on them all the time, what is the loss of that front splitter? How is that affecting this car right now?
It's quite a bit of an effect. You lose a lot of grip in the front of the car, so it forces you to change your driving style. Sometimes with lack of front grip, you have to roll into corners at different speeds, put the car on the nose and under the tail a little more pronounced to get off of a corner. Otherwise, you get into a real long understeer. So it really forces you to drive a little differently. Some guys can, work through it as he's doing right now. I'm seeing he's doing a great job without a splitter. But some guys, it's really difficult to make that change.
And white flag is out. Carl Stout just went by the start-finish stand. There he is now. The gap has grown to about 4.5 seconds. Kind of wonder what Giacomazzi could have done if he had more clear air. That said, it was about 0.4 quicker for Carl last time by.
I think that Riley should look back on this race as a win. Yes, it's not a checkered flag, top of the spot podium P1. However, he was able to regain the positions that he might have lost in that opening, call it turn number 1, from starting on the outside row. Not only did he make up that spot, he went up there and passed Matt Siegel afterwards, as Carl Stout using up every single inch of the racetrack still on the last lap here. So even though Riley's 4.5 seconds back, he's going to come home in second. I think that this was the performance he was looking for.
It's only been a single race this season that Carl Stout has not won. And it was 6 in a row that he went. This will mark a back-to-back since he won the second race at COTA. And I have to say, this has been a great job for him rebounding after what I'm sure was a bit of a frustrating one back there at Circuit of the Americas. He lost it essentially due to a penalty and had to drop backwards down through the field. But he has had no such problems here today. He'll come over the crest of the roller coaster, just a few more corners to seal another checkered flag.
He's just got to really hit one more technical section, and that is hog pen down here. And with the gap that he's got, he can coast it through this section, make sure that you get the front end to bite through the second apex of 17A and look up towards the start-finish stand.
It's about to be 8 wins out of 9 races as Carl Stout takes victory here at VIR. Behind him, screaming to the line, Elaine Scalzo will close in on the points of Mark Bowden by taking a win in Masters.
Nicely done. There goes the 222 across the line right there. Does claim the victory. Musial Jr. follows him. Todd Treffer going to finish in second in Masters, and Mark Bowden does hang on to that podium. And Bob, it was a pleasure to have you in here. Really awesome to be able to chat with you. We really look forward to watching Riley's success throughout 2026 and in the future.
Yeah, he did a great job today. That was a perfect race for him.
As the drivers circulate around, we'll have some podium ceremony, or not podium, we'll have some interviews in a little bit. But Carl Stout going to be grinning ear to ear, and Scalzo no doubt will as well, because he certainly had an interesting race.
We'll let Joe Peak get on out of here as well as watch the rest of our field just complete the cool down lap here at Virginia International Raceway for race number 1 here in the GT3 Cup Series. Here are our Pro-Am results. Carl Stout claiming the victory after leading from pole position. Riley Giacomazzi with a terrific run. Dropped back to what I believe was 4th or 5th place and passed a few cars up to 2nd on the podium. Matthew Siegel with another great race as well, finishes in 3rd. Had a great battle there with Riley throughout the middle portion of the race. Danny Dashelski potentially with the biggest mover award. is going to finish in 4th in that Pro-Am class. Jens Hansen is going to finish in 5th with Musiel Jr. 6th, Blake McGovern 7th, Brandon Hankins 8th, Jensen Safronis in 9th, and Javier Ripple Jr. in 10th. And then this is our Masters class results. Elaine Scalzo takes the victory in the orange and blue 222. Todd Treffert with a 2nd place in that 214 machine. Mark Bowden picks up a couple spots with Fall Line Motorsports to finish in the podium 3rd position. Joel Johnson in 4th, Keith McGovern finishing in 5th with Bill Fennick back here in 6th. Frank Vitiello is going to finish 7th, Scott Neal in 8th, Dave Musiel Sr. in 9th. Sean McCaig is going to finish back here 10th place in class. Then across the next page is going to be Grady Willingham finishing in 11th, Greg Shermer finishing in 12th, Dan Drowan 13th in class, Gardner 14th, Schmitz 15th, and Tartaglione rounding out our 16 cars in the Masters class. What a race we had for the Sprint Challenge North America Series by Yokohama. GT3 Cup race number 1 completed here at VIR, but please don't go anywhere. Joe Peak is already down by the podiums waiting for our winners to get out to interview them. We will be right back.
Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. We just completed Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup race number 1. Joe Peak is going to be going down to our winner interviews momentarily, and I believe that he has Carl Stout, the driver of the 243, ready.
Indeed, we have Carl Stout with us. Carl, it was a bit of a truncated race. Did you feel kind of an extra impetus to push there to get yourself a gap?
Yeah, exactly. I felt pretty confident in my speed anyway, so I felt like I was able to get a gap, and then after just try to manage the tires, because I mean obviously with these scorching conditions it's pretty hot out here, so want to just keep the tires underneath me, and then I think I did a pretty good job of that while maintaining a gap. So yeah, pretty happy with the pace and the execution on the race today.
Speaking of the scorching conditions, you spent so much of it under yellow. Does it feel worse when you're going slow like that?
Yeah, especially when you have the pickup on the tires, because you're driving also through a lot of debris. Definitely around turn 3, 4 where the crash happened, so you try to just not really weave too much, which obviously takes a lot of temperature away from the tires. So it was pretty difficult on that restart to keep Maddie behind me, but I think ended up pretty well. So yeah.
You managed it incredibly well. Congratulations on another win.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with our next winner.
That was Carl Stout, our overall winner and our winner in the Pro-Am class. He, of course, started from pole position, led every single lap of that race. Not only led every single lap, but also put down the fastest lap out of anybody It was a pretty impressive feat out there, so everybody give it up for Carl Stout. I know that Joe Peak is finding Elaine Scalzo, driver of that 222, that bright orange and blue machine, because he is our winner in the Masters class. And, of course, here at VIR, the podium celebrations are just right behind the tech tent, and sounds like Joe Peak has our Masters class winner.
Yes, we do. We've got Elaine Scalzo, who returns to the top step. Elaine, you had some drivers that wanted to pass you, but it seemed like you wanted to keep that buffer in there.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't want Mark to catch me, so yeah, I was happy to there was somebody in between us. Yes.
Now, you obviously started in the mid-pack, and so I'm sure that is making things extra difficult with how kind of jumbled up the pack was from the qualifying. Describe that experience trying to take care of the car at that start.
I think we had a pretty good start. We kept our position, but it's managing the tires here. You know, it's so hot. So that was my main concern, and that's where I had to put a lot of my focus on to have the car as stable as possible. No slides, not too many slides, you know, because and I felt it at the end. That was the tires were starting to get a little bit too hot. But yeah, it was you know, that I guess that's the rules. We didn't qualify, but we started first in our class, so I guess it was a good thing for us, you know. But yeah, but I'm very happy, very happy.
Well, great work out there. You've closed the gap to Mark in the championship. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be back tomorrow with more racing. We'll kick things off with more from Porsche Sprint Challenge North America.